I'm Judy Zelena. Welcome to the Milker Government Channel. When a loved one is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, the effects on the family can be overwhelming. The reality that someone that you love is affected with this devastating illness can trigger a whole range of emotions, from anger, fear, frustration, and sadness. Here to talk about the disease and also to give us some information on how the Alzheimer's Association can help not only the individual but the family during this difficult time, we have Kristen Byers. Kristen is with us with the Alzheimer's Association, and she is the Education and Outreach Manager. Thank you so much. We've done a couple shows,
yes,
and it's always a pleasure to have you on the program. Let our viewers know exactly what services that you have to offer.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to join you here again today. The Alzheimer's Association can help with really a number of things for families. We are there to provide education, support, and also, we're the largest private funder of research. So while we have the compassion to care, we also have the leadership to conquer, which is really the tagline of our organization.
One thing I know, you must get asked this a million times. What is the difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia?
Well, you're right. We do get asked that question.
I'm sure you do.
And
I ask it to you every time.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, even among professionals that work in the dementia care field, it's still a question that's asked. So the best way to think of it is really dementia is an umbrella term. Okay, it's an umbrella term that there's 70 different conditions that cause dementia. Now, Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia. So, think of that umbrella with dementia, and then you have all these other things that cause it. Now, with Alzheimer's being the most common, it actually accounts for 50 to 70% of the dementias. So, typically, if someone says, my loved one has dementia, but I'm so glad it's not that Alzheimer's disease.
You're right, I do hear that.
Yes, it's very common. My next question is, well, tell me the process of the diagnosis, because, it's something that we should be asking that question of our doctors. Well, what type of dementia? What's the dementia caused from? Being that it's caused from so many different things, again, caused from 70 different conditions, it's important that we're asking those questions.
Well, Kristen, how is it diagnosed?
Well, unfortunately, there's no single one test to detect Alzheimer's disease.
Right.
And, really, if we're looking for 100% definitive diagnosis, that's not something that can be obtained until autopsy. However, we can, at a 95% accuracy level, now provide diagnosis. Not the Alzheimer's Association, but your primary care physician or a specialist. And it's done through a process of elimination. And there's a number of tests that have to be done to get to that.
It seems everybody you talk to either has a loved one or knows someone that has been affected by Alzheimer's. How many people are impacted by this disease?
Well, it's interesting because, anytime we're out in the community, the two questions that we ask, one is, how many of you have a loved one who has Alzheimer's disease or dementia? And many hands go up. And then the next is, how many of you know someone? And almost everyone in the room. Statistically speaking, they say that 1 in 3 individuals knows someone with Alzheimer's.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I happened to come across on your website, which is a great website, by the way, too. There are these little scenarios of which I wanted to talk about. It's some of the signs for early detection and compare it with typical age-related change.
Sure.
Because quite honestly, let's face it, every time you forget something, you don't have Alzheimer's.
Absolutely.
No, and that's why there's Post-it notes, let me tell you, for me. But so just because you may get older and slip up a little bit does not mean you have Alzheimer's, correct?
Absolutely.
So I wanted to go over a couple of these. Like one of them is memory loss that disrupts daily life.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for the viewers, we all misplace things. You know, where did we put the keys, the remote? You know, there's common things that we're
Yes.
always sort of chasing around.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so that's normal. Though it's normal to forget names, appointments. Okay, but what's not normal is that if these things start to happen so often that it impacts everyday life. All right, if we're misplacing our keys, and are they on the corner table, or maybe they're on the counter? Okay, so that's normal. But it may not be normal if when we find the keys, they're in the refrigerator.
Okay.
Okay, so it's oftentimes misplacing things and finding them in odd spots.
Okay, what about difficulty completing familiar tasks at home or at work?
Sure.
What's the difference there between Alzheimer's and, you know, a typical age-related issue?
Sure. You know, as we age, it's normal for memory loss is normal as we age. Our brains change with age, just like our bodies do. Alzheimer's is not a normal part of that process, so
Okay.
it's important that we can identify that difference. So something that could disrupt everyday life could be even the task of doing a recipe. You know, making a meal. Well, it's normal. Sometimes we go back to that recipe, you know, 5 times, and oh gosh, was it a tablespoon or a teaspoon? All right, so that's very normal.
Okay.
But someone who we're concerned about may spend, you know, an hour or two trying to gather the ingredients because that short-term memory is so impaired.
Okay. Confusion. What about confusion with time and place?
Sure. Confusion with time and place. I'm going to use the example that all the viewers do all the time, many I should say, is we park our car and we forget where we parked.
Oh, because that's never happened to us, huh, Kristen?
It happens to me.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
have one of those buttons, so that helps. Okay? So it's normal to forget that.
Okay.
All right, but it's not normal to park in a completely different department store. Example, all right? I park at Sears. I forget what lane I parked in. That's normal. It's not normal if I really parked at JCPenney's and I'm looking at Sears for my vehicle for a long extended time. Okay, so that could be a warning
Because you
sign.
truly believe that is where
Exactly.
you parked. Okay. New problems with words or speaking or writing.
Sure. You know, we all forget familiar words, and it's always, it's on the tip of your tongue.
I do that all the time,
Yeah.
even on the set here.
Yeah, so that's okay. But I like to say when you start seeing it more and more,
Okay.
let's say you're out to lunch with some friends, and she says, oh, I'll have the salad, but, you know, leave those red things off. Well, we knew what she meant. The waitress knew, and so did she. But then if that time together continues and you go shopping or go somewhere else and you start hearing more of that sort of word substitution,
Okay.
that could be a warning sign.
All right.
So here and there, very normal, but if we see it more and more often, and, you know, the brain has a very interesting way of still allowing us to communicate, and, you know, very well. And we think of other words. And so, you know, it's those things, those red things, or, you know, that thing that you write something with, you know, so we can still get to our point. But if
Okay.
we're losing that more often.
Just like simple things, like you said, like a pen, tomato.
Right.
Okay, misplacing things, that's a big one. I misplace things.
Sure, and it goes back to those common things that we're always looking for, like the remote, and it's where we find things in odd places, or one family that we worked with, their loved one was getting the mail and putting it in the drawer where she always put it on the mantle. The mail always went there, and then things started to go unpaid, and so it was misplaced back in the drawer, but then never recalled.
So really what we're looking at is exaggerated behavior changes.
Sure.
One that I do see a lot working with seniors, being a senior advocate, is decreased or poor judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be a hard warning sign to come across. And a good example of that would be, we all give to our favorite causes on maybe it's a yearly or monthly, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. But, a family that we worked with didn't discover their dad was having decreased judgment until they noticed the thousands of dollars that he was giving to everyone that asked through the mail.
And that's tough, because sometimes that generation is just a trusting generation.
Sure.
Too. So they're very easy to take advantage of. And then if you've got someone who is suffering from Alzheimer's, they believe it all the more.
Exactly.
So talking about behavior changes, Kristen, what are some of the behavior changes in an individual with Alzheimer's?
Well, I think it impacts everyone very differently. It always starts off the same, impacting short-term memory loss. But, there are some folks that will become argumentative and, have some agitation around, well, why would you say that? I'm not crazy, and, as family members, we're concerned for someone, and so we might say, Mom, what happened? Or to our, our loved one, well, why have you asked me that 5 times? And then that person that we love is going to turn it around and be angry. And so I think increased agitation, some argumentativeness, or maybe sometimes even a bit delusional.
Okay. And suspicious, too. Don't they become very suspicious?
Yeah, and that's hard because it's most common something that the family, the people that we're closest to, are accused of. Well, I know that, Aunt Betty is up to no good, and she said that she was going to do this, and I think that, she's taken my money. Money is a big concern.
Someone took their wallet.
Right.
Yeah, they came in, they came at my house, took the wallet, things like that, right?
Yeah, and, usually money's a common thing,
Okay.
but we've worked with some families where it's not so common. There was a gentleman that, really believed that someone was coming in and, stealing his Pepsi, and, it impacts not just the family, but other systems. When someone is so suspicious that they are calling 911, and, so it's a big concern.
And then we hear about some patients with Alzheimer's that tend to wander.
Yes. Wandering, especially this time of year, or any for that matter, is a big concern. They say that 6 out of 10 individuals wandering can become lost. And wandering is not just something we think of wandering as walking, but it's also, driving, because it goes back to that getting lost easily and not understanding your familiar surroundings. And so, someone who wanders, they may initially leave the home saying they're going to, walk to church or wherever that destination is. And then with that short-term loss, it's not good.
Now, we talked about Alzheimer's. Of course, it affects the individual. but it also affects the family. You know, exactly how does it affect the whole family? It's just not a one-person disease.
No, it's not. It's truly affects so many things. You know, as far as the family, you know, the 100% of individuals with Alzheimer's will no longer be able to drive at one point, and will no longer be able to take care of themselves. And so the who steps in is family, friends, and
Right.
and professionals, because you know that person, you know, will need more support as time goes on.
You know what I see a lot too, Kristen, is denial from the family.
Oh, sure. You know, no one wants their loved one to have Alzheimer's or dementia. It's a very scary thing.
And then I've seen when they've come into my office, the spouse or the parent will repeat themselves. And the person with them will say, "You just said that." They get angry with them.
Right.
But they forgot they did say it. They truly did.
They really did.
Yes.
Yeah, and whatever it is that person is saying, they really believe. You know, if you know they really believe that they have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, you know, they're going to do everything in their power to, number one, get to that appointment, or you know that's what they believe to be true. And so rather than arguing or trying to, you know, change their mind,
Right.
We need to validate their concern and say, you know, Mom, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's interesting, Judy, because the disease lasts for such a long time, it's very normal for many people to live with Alzheimer's independently for a good amount of time.
You know, well, that's true. I mean, really, unless it starts really taking a turn, really for the worse.
Right.
And they aren't able to. Or a spouse, if they're older, especially a spouse, just can't handle them anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know what? The thing of it is, you're right. With Alzheimer's, you're healthy. I mean, your body's healthy. You go on.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you consider the time span of the disease process,
Right.
And it can last anywhere from 2 to 20 years. So a good amount of that time, that person is independent, but, you know, just challenged by many, many things. So, you know, these are folks living with Alzheimer's who are, you know, shopping alongside of us and attending church with us. And so, you know, it's important that, you know, maybe we can step back and go, all right, well, maybe I can understand why Betty has asked me that same question 5 times.
Right, right. Kristen, is there anything new in the horizon in research?
You know, research, there's a lot around research. We hear new advancements almost every week. The challenge with research is twofold. One with funding, and the other with participants in clinical trials. So much of the research that is new is around diet and lifestyle, looking at what we can do to promote healthy brain aging. Mm-hmm. There's a number of items in the research arena, so to speak, around different medications. Right now, there's only 4 medications on the market, and there's currently not one. There's nothing right now that can stop Alzheimer's. They help, but you know, there's no cure.
No cure.
No.
Mm-mm. But like you said, at least they're researching and, you know, maybe trying to help prevent it with healthier eating, a healthier lifestyle, perhaps.
Right, but you know, the thing is there's two things that are the greatest risk factors. One is advancing age, and the other is genetics. And those are things that we can't do anything about. But all the other things that are risk factors for the disease, we can.
Okay. So that's what we want to
Yes.
to concentrate on right now.
Absolutely.
Now, you have so many programs and you have so many services in the Alzheimer's Association. Can you tell us a little bit about some of these programs and how they can benefit the community?
Definitely. We have our single greatest resource is our helpline, and that's a helpline that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we're seeing more and more people access that. And in addition to the helpline, we provide education, and that education is through regular programs. We have a program that takes place in Mill Creek and in Erie monthly around conversations about dementia. Why it's important to obtain a diagnosis. In addition to that, we have regular support groups that meet once a month. In Erie County, we have 7, and they're all run by trained volunteer support group facilitators that are supported by our family services coordinator.
Now, who attends the support groups? Is it the individual or a caregiver?
Well, it is the caregiver.
Okay.
But we also have a specialized support group, and that is a service that is a newer thing, but something that is for the individual and the family. And so we've partnered with the LECOM Institute for Successful Aging to provide that. And so, the caregiver goes in one area and the individual with the disease goes in another. And so that is made only by referral at this point through our family services coordinator who is overseeing that. That's typically something, we've just been so impressed by how that's come along, but it
sounds like a great addition.
Yeah, it really
to the services.
is.
You've got something, a caregiver action plan.
Yes.
What is involved with that?
Well, as a caregiver, or even an individual who has, you get this diagnosis and you're just so overwhelmed. Now what? And so we can help develop that action plan. What are things that you need to look into? A time of crisis is not a time for planning, and so the best case scenario is that we get that plan in place at diagnosis, and we look at all those things that are so important around having a plan. Do we have the proper paperwork in place? Do we have what are our wishes? So that's key, and our care consultation service can really help with that as well.
What is that?
Care consultation is a service provided by our family services coordinator, and oftentimes family dynamics are the challenging thing, getting everyone talking. Maybe one sister's in denial and another one is taking on all the responsibility, and we can really work to bring all those things together through care consultation.
Kristen, we're sort of getting to the end of our time, but I wanted you to briefly mention, you've got a couple annual fundraisers. And what are those?
We do. We have our Walk to End Alzheimer's, which takes place in the fall. And we also have something newer called Reason to Hope. And that's an event that happens in the spring.
Okay. So, and they can keep posted on these on the website.
Definitely.
So they can get involved. How else can people get involved to help you? Attend the fundraisers, but is there anything else that we can do?
Sure. We need help from the viewers to help us with your voice. Help us be heard through advocacy. If you go on our website, there's a lot around public policy issues and research. We need both healthy and individuals with dementia to participate in clinical trials.
Okay, Kristen, if anyone has any questions on anything that we've talked about, how can they get a hold of you guys?
Well, you can contact our helpline, and that's 1-800-272-3900.
Okay.
But you could also call our office, and that's 456-9200.
Okay, you have a great website, and what is that website?
That's www.alz.org/PA.
And that'll bring you right to the local chapter here.
Yes.
And Facebook, you're on Facebook. I was checking you out. In fact, I friended you.
Yes, we sure are. You can definitely friend us on Facebook. It is the Alzheimer's Association Greater Pennsylvania site, but we have all of the local stuff on there too.
Kristen, thank you so much for joining us today. You always have so
pleasure.
much information. You answer a lot of questions. And I did want to mention that the Alzheimer's Association is the world's leading voluntary health organization in Alzheimer's care, support, and research. Again, thank you for all you do, Kristen.
Thank you.
Viewers, thank you for tuning in to the Mill Creek Government Channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
You're watching the Mill Creek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.